My mom said my ex was still job hunting. Then CNN revealed the life she hid from me. I came home for Christmas after 7 years away, and the first thing I felt was the cold. Not the kind that just touches your skin, but the kind that goes straight into your chest. The air smelled the same as it always had, dry leaves, wood smoke, and something old that never left this town. As I drove past the welcome sign, faded and cracked, I felt like I was entering a place that had been waiting for me, not kindly, but patiently. The town looked smaller than it did in my memories. The road felt narrower. The shops looked tired. Even the church on the corner seemed shorter, like it had bent its head over the years. I slowed down without meaning to, letting the car roll forward as if my mind needed time to catch up with my body. 7 years. That was how long it had been since I packed a bag and left without a goodbye. I told myself I was leaving for a better life. For space. For peace. But the truth was simpler and uglier. I was running. I parked the car near the edge of town, my hands still on the steering wheel long after the engine stopped. My reflection stared back at me from the windshield. Older. More tired. The city had taken more from me than it gave. I hadn't planned to come back for Christmas. But a week ago, my job ended quietly. No fight. No speech. Just a short meeting and a handshake. And suddenly, the city felt empty. Too big. Too loud. I booked the ticket home that same night. I told myself it was temporary. I stepped out of the car and pulled my coat tighter. My breath came out in white clouds. My feet moved before my thoughts did, taking me down a familiar path, one I hadn't walked in years. Toward the farm. I didn't know why I went there. Maybe habit. Maybe guilt. Maybe something inside me wanted proof that the past was really gone. The farm sat on the edge of town, where the road turned into dirt and the noise disappeared. The fence was still there, worn and uneven. The barn leaned slightly, like an old man refusing to fall. Everything looked older, but alive. And then I saw her. Sarah stood near the fence, her boots sunk in the mud. She wore a thick jacket, faded at the elbows. Her hair was tied back in a loose knot, just like it used to be when she worked. She was looking down, focused on something in her hands, completely unaware of me. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. Time folded in on itself. I wasn't a man in his 30s anymore. I was 23 again, standing in this same place, watching her laugh, watching her believe in things I was too afraid to protect. She looked up. Our eyes met. She froze, and so did I. The wind moved between us, cold and sharp, but neither of us felt it. Her face changed slowly, surprise, confusion, something deeper that she hid almost immediately. I didn't know you were back, she said. Her voice was calmer than I remembered. Stronger. Neither did I replied, and it was the truth. The words felt small, useless, but they were all I had. We stood there, not moving, like two people afraid that one step might break something fragile. 7 years pressed down on my chest, heavy and tight. I wanted to say her name again, just to hear how it felt, but my mouth stayed shut. The last time I saw her, we were standing in the rain, shouting words we couldn't take back. My family hated her dreams. They said she was unrealistic, that she wanted too much. She wanted land, independence, a life that didn't belong to anyone else. I wanted safety, approval, silence. She wanted me to stand beside her. I didn't. Are you visiting? She asked. Yes, I said. Just for Christmas. She nodded slowly. Her eyes drifted past me, toward the road, like she expected someone else to appear. I had dinner with my family last night, I added, not knowing why. Her mouth tightened, just a little. At the dinner table, my mom had smiled like nothing had ever happened. The house was warm, filled with food and laughter, but something felt off. When someone mentioned Sarah's name, my mom waved her hand and laughed. Sarah. Oh, she's still job hunting, she said. Poor girl never figured life out. Everyone nodded. I nodded too. Standing in front of Sarah now, with dirt on her boots and confidence in her posture, I felt a slow burn of shame. This wasn't a woman who had failed. This was someone who had stayed. You look, well, I said. So do you, she replied, though her eyes said otherwise. We didn't talk about the past. Not yet. It sat between us like an unopened letter. Instead, we talked about the weather. about how quiet the town had become, about nothing. But everything felt loud inside me. I noticed the details I used to ignore, the way her hands moved with purpose, the way she stood her ground even when she was still. She didn't look lost. She looked rooted. "I didn't think you'd come back," she said. "I didn't think I would either." Silence settled again. I realized then that something inside me had already shifted. I came back feeling like a failure, like a man who hadn't become what he promised himself he would be. But standing there, looking at her life, whatever it truly was, I felt like the lie wasn't about me. It was about her. My mother's words echoed in my head, hollow and false. "She's still job hunting." I looked around the farm, at the care in every detail, at the way Sarah belonged to this place. Whatever the truth was, I knew one thing for sure. I had been lied to. And this place, this woman, held answers my family never wanted me to find. We stayed by the fence longer than either of us planned. The sky was turning grey, the kind of grey that comes before early winter darkness. A cold wind moved across the open land, carrying the smell of damp soil and old wood. Somewhere in the distance, a crow cried once and went quiet again. "So, how long are you staying?" Sarah asked. "Just a few days," I said. "I leave after Christmas." She nodded, but her face didn't change. It felt like she was measuring the words, weighing how much they mattered. "That's good," she said. "This town doesn't let go easily." I smiled at that, though it didn't reach my eyes. "You sound like you learned that the hard way." Her gaze dropped to the ground. She pushed her boot into the mud, slow and thoughtful. "Some lessons take time." We leaned against the fence, side by side but not touching. The space between us felt careful, as if we were both afraid that one wrong move would pull us back into the past. I told her about the city, how I moved from job to job, how every place felt temporary. I spoke about the long nights, the noise, the loneliness that followed me even in crowded rooms. She listened without interrupting, her arms crossed, her breath steady. "It sounds like you were always leaving," she said quietly. "Maybe," I admitted. "I thought leaving meant moving forward." "And did it?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I watched the clouds crawl across the sky. "No." She didn't smile. She didn't say "I told you so." She just nodded, like she already knew. I asked her about the farm, about how she managed it alone. She gave simple answers, never too many details. She talked about early mornings, about learning by trial and error, about fixing things when they broke. "It's not easy," she said, "but it's honest." Her words hit me harder than she meant them to. I remembered 7 years ago, standing in my parents' kitchen. My father's voice sharp. My mother's eyes cold. "She's dragging you down," my father said. "She'll ruin your future," my mother added. And me, silent, weak. "You could have had more," my mother had told Sarah once. Sarah had replied, "I want what's mine." Back by the fence, I felt that same shame crawl up my spine. "You could have called," I said suddenly. She went still. "I did," she replied. The word did sat heavy in the air. I remembered my phone buzzing late at night. Unknown numbers. Messages I never opened. I told myself it was easier that way. Cleaner. "You didn't answer," she said. Her voice wasn't angry. That somehow made it worse. "I thought you were better off without me," I said. She finally looked at me then. Really looked. "That wasn't your choice to make." The wind picked up, rattling the fence. I felt like I was standing in front of a door that had been locked for years, and now someone had just handed me the key, but I was scared to turn it. We fell quiet again. That was when I noticed the jacket. It hung on a nail near the barn door. Small. Blue. Too small to belong to either of us. It moved gently in the wind, empty sleeves lifting and falling like someone breathing. My chest tightened. "That yours?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Sarah's shoulders stiffened. Just for a second. "No," she said too quickly. Something about the way she said it made my stomach drop. I looked closer. Near the barn wall, there was a drawing taped to the wood. The paper was worn at the corners, like it had been touched many times. A simple picture, a yellow sun, a small house, a woman with long hair holding a child hand. My heart began to race. "You have someone staying with you." I asked. No, she said again. This time her voice was softer. Not staying. I turned to her. Sarah. She didn't meet my eyes. The silence stretched until it hurt. Flashbacks came without warning. Her crying in the rain. Her hand slipping from mine. Her voice breaking as she said, "If you don't stand up now, you never will." I had watched her walk away. Now she stood in front of me again, holding something back with everything she had. "Why are you here now?" she asked suddenly. The question felt sharp, almost offensive. "I don't know," I admitted. "I thought I came home because I failed. But now, I think I came back because something was missing." Her jaw tightened. "You don't get to decide that anymore," she said. "I know," I said. "I just want the truth." She turned toward the barn, away from me. For a moment, I thought she might tell me to leave. Instead, she said, "Some truths don't belong to the past." The air felt heavier after that. I looked at the farm again, really looked. This wasn't a temporary life. This was built, planned, protected. And suddenly, the words from Christmas dinner felt like a cruel joke. She's still job hunting. I understood then that whatever Sarah was hiding, it wasn't because she was weak. It was because she had learned not to trust me. And that hurt more than anything my family had ever said. I left the farm that evening with my thoughts tangled and my chest tight. As I walked back to my car, I looked once more at the small jacket near the barn door. It swayed gently in the cold air, waiting for someone, for the truth. And I knew, deep down, that when it finally came, it would change everything. My phone buzzed just as the silence between us became unbearable. The sound felt too loud in the open air, too sharp. I almost ignored it, but something in my chest tightened, like a warning. I looked down at the screen. CNN, breaking news alert. I frowned. News alerts were rare where I was standing. Nothing ever happened in this town. I opened it. The video began to load slowly, the cold biting my fingers as I held the phone. Then the screen cleared. And there she was. Not the Sarah standing in front of me in muddy boots and a worn jacket, but the same face, cleaner, sharper, sitting calmly under bright studio lights. Her hair was down. Her posture steady. Her eyes focused straight ahead. My heart stopped. The reporter's voice filled my ears. Tonight, we reveal the woman behind one of the most unexpected success stories in modern farming technology. After 7 years of silence, the founder who rejected corporate pressure and disappeared from public life is finally stepping forward. I felt dizzy. The camera pulled back. Charts appeared. Numbers. Headlines. Words like innovation, self-made, quiet power. This company now supplies sustainable systems to farms across the country, the reporter continued. And its creator chose to remain hidden, until now. My hands began to shake. I looked up from the phone. Sarah had closed her eyes. She didn't look surprised. She looked tired. "You knew this would come out," I whispered. She nodded once. "I planned it that way." The wind rushed past us, colder than before. My thoughts crashed into each other, memories breaking apart and rebuilding with new meaning. All those years. All that silence. All those lies. My mother's voice echoed in my head, laughing at the dinner table. "She's still job hunting." I swallowed hard. "You were never lost." "No," Sarah said softly. "I was hiding." The reporter's voice kept talking, but I could barely hear it now. She disappeared shortly after a public dispute with a powerful local family who tried to control her work. My breath caught. Sarah opened her eyes and looked at me. "I didn't want you in the middle," she said. "Not again." I wanted to speak, but the words stuck in my throat. Then I saw movement near the barn. Small footsteps in the mud. A child stepped out from behind the door, holding a wooden truck in his hands. He stopped when he saw me. His eyes lifted slowly. They were my eyes. The world tilted. "Sarah," my voice broke. "Who is that?" She didn't look at the child at first. She looked at me. "He's 6, she said. My knees felt weak. "He's yours." The words didn't land all at once. They fell slowly, piece by piece, tearing through me as they went. My chest burned. My ears rang. "I didn't know," I whispered. "I know," she said. That was the plan. My phone slipped from my hand and hung uselessly at my side. The CNN report kept playing, forgotten. She took a breath, steadying herself. When I found out I was pregnant, I tried to reach you, she said. You didn't answer. Then your mother came. My stomach twisted. She came here. I asked. Sarah nodded. She told me you were done with me, that you wanted a clean break. She said a child would ruin your future. I could see it clearly now. My mother standing tall, controlled, smiling without warmth. She offered money, Sarah continued. Not to leave town. Just to keep you away. To let you believe I disappeared because I failed. My hands curled into fists. She said if you knew the truth, you'd choose me, Sarah said. And she couldn't allow that. I remembered every time my mother spoke of loyalty, of family, of sacrifice. This was her version of love. I didn't take her money, Sarah said. I took my silence. The child looked between us, confused but calm. He didn't come closer. He stayed where he was, like he had been taught to wait. I wanted him to grow up without fear, Sarah said. Without power games. Without lies. I took a step forward, then stopped. I didn't deserve to know, I said quietly. She didn't argue. You chose comfort over truth, she said. I chose protection. The CNN report ended. The screen on my phone went dark. The quiet that followed felt final. I didn't plan revenge, Sarah said after a moment. I planned survival. But sometimes, the truth does the work on its own. I looked at my son again. At the way he held his toy. At the way he stood so still. I missed everything, I whispered. Yes, she said. You did. There was no anger in her voice. No victory. Just honesty. I left the farm as the sky darkened, my chest heavy with truths I couldn't outrun anymore. The drive back to my parents' house felt longer than ever before. When I opened the front door, the television was on. CNN. The same report replayed. My mother sat frozen on the couch. My father stood behind her, silent. On the screen, Sarah spoke calmly about independence, about choosing patience over power, about protecting what mattered. My mother turned slowly when she heard me. Her face drained of color. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I walked to the television and turned the volume up. Then I looked at her and smiled, not with joy, not with pride, but with clarity. She had controlled the story for 7 years. Now the world was listening to the truth. And for the first time in my life, I said nothing and let silence do the damage.